In the Netherlands, the International Court of Justice holds hearings on the legal consequences of Israel's occupation of the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem since 1967. In Venezuela, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov arrived in Caracas on his second stop of his Latin American tour with the aim of strengthening relations and cooperation with the region. In the United Kingdom, activists rallied in front of the London High Court before the final appeal of journalist Julian Assange against his extradition to the United States. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The International Court of Justice based in The Hague holds a hearing on the legal consequences of Israel's occupation of the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem since 1967. More than 50 countries, including nations denouncing the Israeli genocide against Palestine, such as Cuba, China, Russia, and Egypt, and Tel Aviv allies, such as the United States, will present arguments before the judges. On the next days, Algeria, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Bolivia, and Belize are expected to take the stand to present their conclusions. In this context, the South African representative denounced that Israel is subjecting the Palestinian population to a system of apartheid in violation of international law. In this context, we will see Madon Sela, South African ambassador to the Netherlands, condemn Israel's apartheid against Palestinians and call for its immediate end.
We as South Africans sense, see, hear and feel to our core the inhumane discriminatory policies and practices of the Israeli regime as an even more extreme form of the apartheid that was institutionalized against black people in my country, coincidentally from the year 1948, and which lasted until 1994. Moreover, it is clear that Israel's illegal occupation is also being administered in breach of the prohibition of the crime of apartheid. It is indistinguishable from settler colonialism, which has no place in the 21st century.
Palestine and Israel continues its genocidal aggression against Gaza. Occupation forces committed 9 massacres in the last 24 hours, murdering 103 Palestinians and injuring 142 others. Gaza's health ministry reported the death toll rose to 29,195 since October 7th. The Israeli offensive has so far left 69,100 people injured. Many victims still remain under rubble as the occupation forces deliberately prevents ambulances and civil defense crews from reaching them. The health ministry also revealed that 18 patients from Nasser Medical Complex have been evacuated to field hospitals, with 118 others still inside the hospital, emphasizing that the situation inside the complex has exceeded a catastrophe and constitutes a direct threat to the lives of patients and medical staff. We now go to Palestine with our correspondent Nur Harasin for details of the situation facing the Palestinians in Gaza and Rafah, in the hope that the international community can materialize its call for a ceasefire or a humanitarian truce.
Palestinians here in Gaza are living with the little hope left of a ceasefire or a humanitarian truce between Hamas and Israel. They are putting all the hopes on the American, Qatari and Egyptian efforts to negotiate and bring peace here on the ground in Gaza. Palestinians, specifically in Rafah, many of them actually started evacuating Rafah city ahead of an expected Israeli land invasion in Rafah, even though Rafah is now housing more than 1.5 million people, and even though the organizations around the world, countries, leaders have warned of a catastrophic situation here on the ground if Israel actually invaded Rafah. However, Palestinians do feel that maybe there will be an Israeli land invasion before the holy month of Ramadan, and that's why many of them are actually evacuating Rafah to other cities and camps in Middle Gaza, like the Al-Nusayrat refugee camp, Deir el-Balah and also Al-Bureij refugee camp, even though it is not even safe there too. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry and in its latest statement, the death toll here in Gaza is now up to 29,100 Palestinians. 70% of them are women and children. In the statement, the Palestinian Health Ministry also pointed at 128 journalists that were killed here in Gaza since the 7th of October. Nur Harazin, TeleSUR, Gaza.
On Tuesday, United Nations report highlighted that in Palestine, the death of several children due to the high levels of child malnutrition puts the population of the Gaza Strip on alert. In this sense, after 20 weeks since the beginning of the genocide perpetrated by Israel, the report adds that the scarcity of food and drinking water seriously affected the nutritional state of thousands of Gaza children, victims of the siege of the Tel Aviv regime. According to figures presented by the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees in the Near East, 1 out of every 6 children under 2 years of age in the north of the enclave suffers from acute malnutrition. On the other hand, the entity also assured that before the beginning of the conflict, lack of weight in Gaza was uncommon. However, with the passing of the weeks and with the increase of populations, it has dangerously increased. Dozens of activists protested in central Jerusalem on Monday demanding a ceasefire in Gaza and an immediate agreement to free Israeli hostages. In this sense, demonstrators gathered in front of the Israeli parliament known as the Knesset up to the office of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and demanded an immediate agreement to end the conflict in Gaza. It's worth noting that the Netanyahu administration is rejected by Israeli citizens because, according to the public opinion, it has abandoned the hostages. On the other hand, social activists reported that during the mobilization, some demonstrators were detained by the police. Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammad Shtayyeh warned against dire consequences facing Palestinians in Rafah if Israel launches a ground invasion.
The world must prevent the invasion of Rafah. Rafah is now an explosive container, and the invasion of Rafah means the fall of thousands of martyrs. Israel must be prevented from executing this aggression, and citizens must be allowed to return to their homes in the northern and central Gaza Strip.
A building collapsed in a southern suburb of Beirut late Monday, killing 4 people and injuring 3 others as search operations continue for more people under rubble. Among the 4 fatal victims were 2 women, a man and a child. Also, it is estimated that 17 people are still trapped under the debris. The building that collapsed in the suburb of Shuifat Monday night crumbled after days of heavy rain in Lebanon. Local officials said the building was not considered safe, and the municipality had ordered the 4-story building evacuated 2 years ago out of concerns due to the weakness of its foundation. Despite the order, the owner of the building rented apartments to Syrian families. We are now going to take a short break, but remember you can always join us on our TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you can find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov arrived on Tuesday at the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, this being his second stop on his tour around the Latin American continent. During the visit, the Russian emissary will hold diplomatic meetings with his Venezuelan counterpart Ivan Gil, as well as with President Nicolás Maduro and Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez. On the eve of the visit, Lavrov emphasized that the working agenda in the South American country includes the development of the strategic partnership and various joint projects in the areas of trade, investment, and culture. It is expected that during the talks, they will also agree on the date of the Venezuelan president's next trip to the Russian nation, as announced in previous statements. Previously, the Russian foreign minister held a bilateral meeting with Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel during his official visit to Havana. The Cuban president thanked Lavrov and the Russian Federation for the empathy shown in the face of the difficulties the Caribbean island is experiencing. For his part, the Russian foreign minister said that during the meeting, decisions were taken to strengthen mutual cooperation at the economic and commercial levels. He also announced that given the growing number of Russian tourists in the island, the options of direct flights between Moscow and Havana will be expanded. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stressed the importance of Cuba as a strategic partner of Moscow in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean.
Cuba is our partner, a very important ally in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean. We are satisfied with the character of our relations, of our dialogue at all levels, including the highest levels between Parliament and also between the respective ministries of the two countries.
The Russian Foreign Minister said they have maintained their interest in increasing cooperation and investment in Cuba.
We have established our position to increase cooperation, mutual investment. Some time ago, we have taken a number of decisions that have formed the legal basis of our interaction. And the most important in this regard is the Russian-Cuban Commission for Scientific and Technical Cooperation. We have established the interest of both sides to hold another meeting of the organization in the coming months.
On Tuesday, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro held a meeting with the Algerian Minister of Energy and Mining, Mohamed Arkab. The meeting took place in Caracas, where they discussed the achievements in energy cooperation between both countries, as well as their people's union and the social welfare of the nations. The meeting took place within the framework of the visit of the Algerian Minister of Energy, who since Monday has been holding meetings with Venezuelan authorities, among them the Minister of Petroleum, Pedro Rafael Tellechea, with whom he discussed the strategic cooperation between Caracas and Algeria. Venezuela and Algeria have signed different cooperation agreements in strategic fields such as political, cultural, energy, commercial, scientific, among others. In Venezuela, the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, reaffirmed the willingness of the national government to dialogue with all political sectors of the country without prejudice, based on respect for the Constitution and the Venezuelan state.
We're not here to discriminate against any factor in the life of Venezuelans. We're not here to reject talks with absolutely no one. On the contrary, let them all come to look for areas of common ground. Only one group cannot come here, the violent ones, those who violate the Constitution, those who don't abide by the decisions of the Supreme Court of Justice, or the National Electoral Council, or of the executive power, or of the legislative power. All the rest those who want to come to confront ideas as adversaries and not as enemies, but within the framework established by the Constitution, will be welcomed.
In El Salvador, leaders of the Farabundo Martí Front for National Liberation, FMLN, announced that they will request the nullity of the electoral process after registering and documenting different irregularities during the electoral and legislative elections. According to the FMLN, the result of the final scrutiny of the elections held on February 4th does not reflect the national reality and was the outcome of a series of changes to the electoral rules to continue concentrating power. The FMLN added that its objective is to give a voice to the most vulnerable Salvadorian families and to conquer more rights for the population. Previously, the opposition parties Vamos and Arena had also announced their interest in presenting such an appeal for nullity. In Chile, temporary housing was provided on Monday to families who lost all their belongings in the forest fires that occurred during the first days of the month in the Valparaiso region. The mayor of Villa Alemana, one of the most affected communities, declared that 107 houses were affected by the flames. On Monday, 12 families of the place were benefited with temporary housing until the definitive reconstruction works begin. Regarding the rest of the victims, Toledo said that the process will be different because they are not owners of the lots where they had built their homes. The government proposed to deliver a temporary voucher for the payment of rents or accommodation in a hotel. This last one is destined, in particular, to pregnant women or elderly people. In El Salvador, the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, reaffirmed the willingness of the national government to dialogue with all political sectors of the country without prejudice, based on respect for the Constitution and the Venezuelan state. We have a functional break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America, the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Functional break, don't go away. Welcome back. On Tuesday in the United Kingdom, activists rallied in front of the London High Court before the final appeal of journalist Julian Assange against his extradition to the United States. Julian Assange's lawyers are launching a final attempt to fight against the cyber activist's extradition to the United States, where he could face life imprisonment if convicted of espionage charges. The 52-year-old founder of WikiLeaks is facing a trial in the United States for exposing U.S. war crimes after publishing secret military and diplomatic files. If he loses, Assange will have exhausted all the United Kingdom's appeals and will enter the extradition process, although his team has indicated that he will appeal to the European Court. In the framework of the mobilization outside the London High Court, Assange's wife reiterates that Julian needs his freedom.
We have two big days ahead. What to expect. But you're here because the world is watching. They have to know they can't get away with this. Julian needs his freedom and we all need the truth. Thank you.
Assange added that Julian is a political prisoner and his life is at risk.
This case is an admission by the United States that they now criminalize investigative journalism. It's an attack on all journalists all over the world. It's an attack on the truth and it's an attack on the public's right to know. Julian is a political prisoner and his life is at risk.
Dozens of Julian Assange banners held a noisy protest outside the United States Embassy in Berlin on Tuesday, warning of the consequences Assange would face if extradited to the U.S. prison system.
Julian Assange is now really threatened with extradition to the United States, and in the U.S. he will face even worse prison conditions, and he should be free. And that's what we want to demand here today in front of the United States Embassy, loud and clear.
Our multimedia team prepared the following summary video with the top information of Julian Assange's appeal to not be extradited to the United States. Let's see. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.